Good morning. If you are watching this video, you are probably at the moment researching different ways in which you can become residents in Portugal. Maybe you're considering a long vacation or a family move to Portugal. My name is Alana and I work for Migronis. We are a global citizenship and residency by investment company. In this video, I am going to show you how you can make an investment in Portugal either as a second home, or because you are considering retirement in Portugal, or because you might be considering moving here with your whole family. I'm going to cover for you the top 10 things that you need to consider before you make this investment in Portugal. If we start with the first topic, bureaucracy, people talk about that so often, but what does it actually mean for you? I think if you understand the bureaucracy and the process that's involved, then you can prepare for it a little bit better and you can make your peace with the process and deal with it. So the very first point that anybody has to consider before you make a move to Portugal is that you have to obtain a NIF. A NIF is your tax identity number or a fiscal number, and that is required for every adult person that moves to Portugal. It is very easy to obtain and it doesn't cost a fortune. You can do it for anything from 75 euros to 500 euros depending on who your service provider is. All you need to obtain a NIF is proof of your home address, so a recent utility bill, and an authorized or authenticated copy of your passport. And then you can obtain that NIF remotely. It takes about a week at the moment to get that. One of the main things you need is a bank account. You cannot open a bank account though without your keys to Portugal. So first you need the NIF and then you can apply for a bank account. There's a number of banks that offer this service remotely in Portugal. Banks like Millennium BCP, Caixa, Bison Bank, Atlantico, Novo Bank. There's many banks that offer the service. They all say that they can do it within 1 to 2 weeks remotely, but experience has shown us that at the moment it takes more like 4 to 6 weeks. So it is a bit time consuming. What you need to open this bank account is typically, in the first place, your NIF. You need bank statements from your current bank in the US or wherever you're currently banking. You need proof of good standing with your bank. Some of the banks actually ask for a CV so that they can see who the investor is, and they always want to know what your tax situation is, so they ask for a recent tax statement. And then you can open your bank account. The best news about the bank account, despite the fact that it's a little bit bureaucratic, is that you can actually do all of this remotely. So you do not need to physically be in Portugal to open your bank account. The banks will facilitate it for you wherever you are. The next very important thing to consider is what kind of visa you will require to settle yourself in Portugal or to make these investments in Portugal. So there's multiple different ways in which you can qualify, and the top 3 that are being used at the moment to share that information with you. In the first place, you have the Portugal Golden Visa. The Golden Visa only requires you to spend 7 days of the year in Portugal in order to renew your visa, or you can spend 2 weeks in every 2-year period to renew the visa. You have to make a minimum real estate investment of 280,000 euros, or you can invest up to 500 or 1 million euros. The other investment option within the Golden Visa is fund investments, and those are proving to be very popular. You need to invest 500,000 euros in a private equity fund to qualify for the Golden Visa. The next visa option is the D2, which is typically used by business investors because you can incorporate a company in Portugal. You have to prove that you have an independent foreign means of income from outside of Portugal, and the total amount there for a single person is 8,460 euros per annum, which coincides with the minimum wage in Portugal, so wages are quite low here. That is a very popular route for business investors to follow. You need to apply for these visas when you are outside of Portugal, so you can't do it after you've arrived in Portugal. The last category of visas is a D7. This visa you also have to apply for when you're still living outside of Portugal, and you apply at your local embassy to get that. To qualify for the D7, you need to prove that you have independent means of stable, consistent income sourced from outside Portugal. That is 8,460,000 euros per annum, or you can deposit 16,920 in a Portuguese bank account to qualify. So the next part is the fun part of this video, because you have to now decide where you are going to invest in Portugal and where you are going to live. Let's first separate the decision of where to invest from where you're going to live. If you're considering a Golden Visa investment, these Golden Visa investments are not typically suitable for family homes. They're more or less resort hotel developments, so you want to separate your investment decision from where you want to live. So make the investment, move to Portugal, and spend a little bit of time to understand the different parts of Portugal to find that perfect family home. The second point is the climate. The climate varies greatly from the far north of Portugal, where it's a little bit cooler, to the coastal parts of Portugal, all the way down south to the Algarve, where you have 300 sunny days every year. So you really have to spend some time in the country to understand the climate, the prevailing winds, which way you want your house to face, before you can really make that decision of where to live. So come and rent a little while and make that decision afterwards. A very important factor for people moving to Portugal is the air quality here. The air quality is amazing. There is just fresh air absolutely everywhere in Portugal. So have a look at this attached graph and see for yourself how Portugal compares with the rest of the world. So the location decision is quite important. Most of the inquiries come into Portugal about Porto, Lisbon and the Algarve. And yet there's multiple beautiful towns and coastal regions in between. So when you come to Portugal and you spend some time in those different locations, you will actually get a feel for it and understand whether this is a place you want to live. You want to consider things like the nearest hospital, the nearest school, what the infrastructure is like, how easily accessible things are for you, if you need to be close to an airport. And it doesn't have to be in the main centers of Portugal. You can invest and live anywhere in between. So it's important to come and spend some time before you make that decision. Taxes. That is probably everybody's least favorite topic in this world. However, before you contemplate a move to Portugal, you have to consider your personal tax situation and you have to get professional advice. I see a lot of Facebook comments and a lot of Facebook self-help groups, etc. Unfortunately, in this case, it gets quite complicated, and I really recommend that you get professional help. Portugal has a very special tax regime called the NHR, the Non-Habitual Tax Treaty, which has been in force for a couple of years, and it is very attractive for people wanting to retire in Portugal. It allows you to, for the next 10 years, get significant discounts on your pensionable income in Portugal. If you want more information on this, I've created a separate video on that topic and you can see it here. Portugal, of course, has their very own special language, Portuguese, which I thought would be a little bit easier to learn. I've been here for a few months now, and I can identify a few words. Because I live in a touristic part of Portugal, I get away with speaking very little Portuguese at this point. But as soon as you move off the beaten track into the countryside, or you're looking for very specific services or sometimes civil services, it really is helpful if you can speak a little bit of Portuguese. So just an interesting fact for you to know is when you're speaking to a Portuguese person and you say bom dia, which means good morning, we will typically say bom dia and they will say bom dia. So they stretch that angle at the end, bom dia. Then you know you're speaking to a real Portuguese person. When you're saying thank you, which is a very important skill to have, as a woman I would say obrigada to somebody, and if you're male you would say obrigado to somebody, or you can just abbreviate it and say obrigado when you're saying thank you for something. English is widely spoken across Portugal, and what I find very helpful is that even if you're in an area where there's very little English spoken, people are very helpful and they will always pull somebody else over that will volunteer to translate for you. So you're never really stuck. You can get a long way with only speaking English. If, however, you are trying to ultimately qualify for citizenship or to get permanent residency in Portugal, you have to pass that language test. So better to start learning the language sooner rather than later. The last of our 10 points today is the least academic of them all, but yet very important. People love the food and wine in Portugal. It's an agricultural country, and I guess because of the clean air and the beautiful ocean that influences the quality of the produce, you get a lot of fresh fruit and vegetables, there's beautiful markets, there's a lot of seafood available, there's a lot of beef products available, and the quality of the food is very high. So if you're thinking about, for instance, investing in a property, maybe you do that every 5 to 10 years. Your taxes you review annually. But food, however, you have 3 times a day. So it's really nice to know that Portugal has exceptional food and very good quality wine. If you found this information in this video helpful, please like it below. And if you have some feedback, please post it in the comments. And if you have specific questions, please use my WhatsApp number below and subscribe to the channel. See you next time. Ciao.